Hey, y'all. I'm pissed at myself right now. I don't know why. I thought I hit record. I know it didn't stop on its own. Like, this camera doesn't stop, so I screwed up somewhere. Anyway, let's pick it up where I left off. And just say, hey, y'all. Matt Massive Beers here. Side-by-side time. I have not tasted these beers, full disclosure, I promise you. I've just opened them, poured them, and huffed them. We have Buried Acorn. It is their Bearded Tears. This is their Heaven Hill Bourbon Barrel Aged beer with vanilla. We have the cacao nibbed, the Taza chocolate cacao nib version over here. These are sent to me by my boy Sean. And yeah, let's dive into it. They looked exactly the same in a pour. This one has a little bit of a head, more of a head right now, as you can see, but that's because I swirled this one and puffed it. I actually even smelled this one yet. On this one over here, very cool vanilla. It's a big thing that jumps out at you. No shit, Sherlock. You got vanilla going on over here. It's a cool vanilla. It's hefty, but not overpowering. And there's this really cool kind of nutty malty characteristic that I hope carries over onto this one. But the way the vanilla comes off, a little bit marshmallowy and just not overpowering. Like, it almost seems like vanilla's like a challenge nowadays. Like, people just try to put as much vanilla as humanly possible in beer. I don't dig on that. We all love vanilla. Who doesn't? But when it gets over too heavy-handed, it kind of overpowers the core of the beer. It just doesn't really work for me. I don't think that's going to be the case here. Purposeful vanilla, nothing heavy-handed. You get this nice big roasty, toasty, almost Russian Imperial stouty kind of malt base on this with this big roasted malt component comes off nutty-like. So I'm really digging a nose on this one. Let's move to the Choco Lot. Okay. See, that nutty characteristic over here follows through, and I expected it to come off as more a Nutella thing. It doesn't. It comes off as almost like a macchiato kind of mocha coffee thing. It's and by that I mean it's not really coffee-like in the nose. And you're like, then why you say it's like that? No, I'll get there. It comes off as like a toasted, roasted, bittering, nutty chocolate, like almost like make coffee with nuts and chocolate and just leave the coffee component out of it. It's not just straight chocolate, it's not just straight nuts, there's something to it. So it does have this kind of cool, kind of more baker's chocolatey, kind of bittering, not overly sweet. There is going to be a sweet cuvee at the end of this, and I think that might be the best part of this. Maybe merging these both together, but we'll see what's what. So, yeah, big vanilla over here, marshmallow-like, big roasty, toasty malts, some darker chocolate over here. Let's dive in. Cheers, all. That's good. That's good. It's surprising how reserved it is. You know, especially for 17 and change. You know, you're drinking a big beer. That's not lost on that. But it's very, very smooth for 17. Drinks more like, 12%. It's sweet. No shit. Again, 17%. But not overly sweet. And when you combine that vanilla into the show, it's actually probably perceptionally comes off a little bit less sweet than you really, really expect it to. I mean, the vanilla's there; it's not overpowering. The beer is still the driver in the passenger or the driver's side. It's called the steering wheel. We hold it and we drive buses and cars with it. It's doing that. It is driving the bus here. But the vanilla is a very, very cool co-pilot. It's got a really silky smooth kind of mouthfeel to it, like really almost like it reminds me of, and it kind of makes sense with the ABV level here. It reminds me of some of the old school kind of brewery beers, your Black Tuesday and some of those old school kind of big 750 ml bottle kind of OG, big, huge, rich brewery beers. Those mouthfeels were always super hyper distinct because they weren't like this motor oil, like thick 5C thick kind of thing. There was always this kind of satin, silky, ness to its density, and that's what you're actually getting here, which is a really, really, really cool welcome texture, especially with something this ABV level. That nuttiness comes through. I really dig it. There's a stringency to it. I think it's a combination of this alcohol burn off in combination with a little bittering astringency. I'm not going to sit here and say it's a super positive. I'm not going to say here it's a negative. It adds a little counterbalance to the sweetness level, but it is I don't want to say aggressive, but it's there. So that's probably my biggest knock on it, even though wouldn't even call it that big of a negative, because without that bittering portion, I don't think it kind of drinks as well. And if, like I said, I can't compliment the vanilla enough. Being meaningful, but not heavy-handed. Taza? We're getting Taza chocolate, son. Cheers. Yeah, quite a bit more reserved. I think the chocolate blends in with the beer quite a bit more. So the malt portion of the show here for the beer itself, that seems to be a little bit more robust over here, a little bit more kind of depth to that roasted malted chocolate nuttiness, and I think that's where that cacao nib goes and kind of treats the beer. It doesn't come off like super chocolatey, but it just kind of enhances that. When you remove the vanilla portion of the show, it just enhances that even more. It has the same nutty level. It has that same silken kind of thing over there. Even though I think over here just a little bit more. Or it could just be, I went to this 1 second. And it's nice. The big thing here, which is I really haven't touched on all that much, and it probably is obvious, is the spirit in the barrel. You could tell it's barrel aged. It's actually, you can tell there's spirit involved. I don't think the barrel played a huge part in these beers, as far as just like, or I should say, hasn't played as big a part in this beer as all the other components. The spirit portion is here. There's a little soft heat to it. You can tell there's a whiskey component involved. That's readily apparent. It's nice. It's not negative. It's not overpowering. It's not out of balance. It's where the barrel portion comes in. There is a dryness here. That could be that little bit of astringency coming into a little bit of barrel char. But the barrel itself, it just seems a little bit less than everything else. Not by leaps and bounds. It's there, just kind of below the surface a little bit. And with the malt portion of the show playing here, the adjunct portion of the show being really fun, even more aggressive on the vanilla and things, but vanilla is more aggressive than cacao nib, so it's not like it's wasn't going to win that challenge in the first place. In the spirit portion of the show, they're all within relatively kind of harmonic range. That barrel is just a touch. I mean, we're nitpicking here, really. A touch below. Not in a negative way, but if you brought that up a little bit, I think it'd be more of kind of like a holy shit, sure, that's freaking bonkers, crazy kind of thing, as opposed to just a really tasty beer, or a pair of beers. But yeah, I like them both in their own accord. I probably skew, just lean slightly in the vanilla portion of the show, but they're both really tasty, and honestly, for both of their ABV levels, and to bring that kind of mouthfeel to it, they're just really good. Okay, let's do it to it. There you go. That's what you're all waiting for. Look at that. Just yellow blue blockers. Bismarck blue blockers. That's what we've got going on in that sucker. Yeah, that's called legs. So, let's get a huff on this sucker. It smells exactly like a mixture of the two. And you would be like, again, not to pull out all the no shit Sherlocks on this video, you'd be so surprised that doesn't happen when you mix two beers together like that. It really is just a slightly less vanilla, a little bit more chocolate kind of thing going on. Yeah, dive in. Cheers. That's a weird one. That's a very weird one. So, almost exclusively, more specifically when I do the barrel aged kind of cuvées, I usually end up going down the road of which one do I like better. Do I want them mixed, or should they be separate? That's kind of the what we're working towards when we do these. I kind of want them all. I kind of want to set some aside and then do the cuvee and do them all together. Because what I'm getting here is a little bit muted version of the vanilla, a little bit muted version of the chocolate. So a little bit less vanilla, a little bit less chocolate, at least perceptionally. But you get a little bit more of that spirit, which I'm not opposed to, but I get this big, huge fruit thing that I honestly did not even perceive or talk about in the previous two. There's this kind of like almost like you soaked a cherry in some wine kind of fruit, dark fruity thing that just wasn't there, at least for this guy. Yeah, it's like a tart cherry cordial thing. Cherry cordial, that's very popular kind of thing to pull out of a big Imperial Stout, more specifically a Russian Imperial Stout, which I think this is pretty much is what it is. I like that. So if you have these, I would totally like pour yourself a couple ounces of each and pour an ounce or two in a glass and drink 3. Do a side by side by side. Would it be a side by side and a middle? I don't know what that term would be. Tasty, that's what it's called. But this is fun. This is a really tasty beer. You know, not knowing much about Perrier Acorn outside of a couple of beers I had from my buddy George, which I talked about in the previous unboxing video, you know, I hadn't had a ton, and now I'm kind of like, 3 or 4 of their beers deep, and it's been a while since I've been to Syracuse. The pandemic coming down. Sean throws parties. He's a DJ. I might have to dust off the turntables back there. I don't know. Maybe we make a trip. How about that? Maybe in the summertime. See how things trend. But yeah, thanks again, Sean, for sending them off. Are these some of the better Imperial Stouts I've had as of late? Yes. Are the Mount Rushmore Stouts? Probably just outside looking in, because I've had some really good ones, but that's nothing to kind of get upset about, because there's so many good beer out there. But they're worthy of being up there. Let's put it that way. I don't know. Have you had this stuff from Buried Acorn? Have you had these specific beers? Any of their beers? Tell me what you think. Tell me about their price points, all that kind of stuff. The stuff I want to know. I want to hear from you guys. That's more what I want from these videos. A little bit more kind of give me the information. Give me those boots on the ground and what you feel and what you hear from them. And I'll try to respond. I know how neglecting I am when it comes to comments, but I'll give it the old college try. So there you go. Review on the books. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hope to see you next time. Cheers, y'all.